Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Day after Lazio Cagliari. Finally, Alistair, we stop the losing streak. But after nearly 24 hours, what do you think about this draw?
Stopping the losing streak is a nice positive spin. It's true. I can't help but feel it's one of these games that by the end of the season we'll look back on with a bit of regret, because I think Lazio had every opportunity to win that match. Deserved to. They dominated large stretches of it. They had far more opportunities, far more possession, far more quality really than Cagliari. But it's similar stuff to what we've already been saying so far this season about the defense being made of paper and the attack not really putting away these opportunities they're creating. So in the circumstances, a draw felt like quite good last night, I think, because the equaliser came quite late. But in the cold light of day, I think we do feel like we should have won that match.
Yeah, I think in the first half, Lazio played particularly well, created a lot of chances. But even though we have Ciro Immobile, and this is strange to say, we struggle to finalize. And again, I was noticing that there's not enough players in the penalty box. When we put this ball in, there's only Ciro Immobile fighting against 1, 2, 3 defender. And even though he's the best striker in Italy, it's complicated, right? Every time when you're 2vs1 or etc., right? So that's one of the issue we're having.
Yeah. And you could notice the difference between that and playing a team like Cagliari, who had Pedro and Keita up front alongside each other and set each other up by playing close to one another. I don't know. Do you think that's an intentional strategy on Sarri's part, or is that just another level of the idea of Lazio still adjusting to this style, not quite working out how to fill the box or which players should be making which runs when?
Well, I think they still need to find out the right movements. I think when the ball is coming from one side, the other winger have to definitely get in the box. But at the same time, I expect one between Milinkovic Savic and Luis Alberto to give a hand to Ciro Immobile, which wasn't happening a lot, especially in the first half. So I think that's the movement we're missing. On the other side, though, I think that sometimes they are too in front and we get stupid counter-attack. I mean, the first goal of Cagliari, it was our ball. We lose the header and they score 30 seconds later, right? So where were everybody there?
I mean, the Cagliari equaliser drove me crazy yesterday, and then I just rewatched it before we started recording, and it's made me even crazier today, I think. I mean, it is bizarre the way that both centre-backs rush out of the line to try and stop Marin's shot, and then he plays a really clever pass. I mean, it is brilliant from Marin, that kind of little dink over the top when they all think he's going to shoot, but it's crazy that both centre-backs are rushing out to him like that to then leave. I mean, if it wasn't Pedro, I think there was another player in the box free as well.
Yeah, but that's the mistake of Leiva again. I thought Leiva was terrible on that goal. He's not able to bring down Joao Pedro. And then the Acerbi and Luis Felipe, as you were saying, trying to put in offside the player, but Leiva fell asleep and keeps everything online. So, I think Acerbi and Luis Felipe did what Sarri wanted, right? High pressure, offside, and simply Leiva forgot that he was playing with Lazio in that occasion and kept Joao Pedro online. So I think that's a terrible double mistake from Leiva in that goal.
You really weren't happy with Leiva yesterday. do you think it's do you think this is a problem with actually Lucas Leiva, the player, or is this just a case of what we've been talking about already quite a lot about the fact that we've had a game every 3 days and he's 33, 34 years old playing central midfield?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. I thought he started well, but then you can see that fatigue was chasing him up and he struggled to move as fast as before. Uh, and then with Sarri ball, I don't think he's the perfect fit, to be honest with you. And we saw it a couple of times, and even against Milan, I thought we could notice that. I think we're going to talk later about Cataldi. I think Cataldi had a huge impact. But yeah, I think that's a problem. I think that's a big problem. And I was talking with a friend yesterday at the stadium, and I thought that the two big things Lazio should have done this summer is buy a central defender and a playmaker instead of Leiva, and none of this happened. So that's the concern I have.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Cagliari set up relatively well to counter Lazio. I mean, they were so aggressive. It was obvious. I mean, I think it was within about 2.5 minutes or something. I turned around to my girlfriend and said, I think they've already kicked about 4 Lazio players in the space of the opening 2 minutes. They were flying into challenges, extremely physical, extremely aggressive. But it worked. I mean, they were targeting Milinkovic-Savic a lot. He ended up on the ground quite a few times.
You're pushing me to talk about the ref, huh? Okay.
I'm not talking about the referee and whether these are foul or not so much as whether you think that's effective as a strategy. Like, are Lazio physical enough? Are we focusing so much on the ball patterns, the movement off the ball, the tactical structures, that actually you're sometimes forgetting about the very kind of core of a football match, where you just want to be getting stuck in, basically, just the physicality aspect. Is that something that teams like Cagliari can get at Lazio with?
I don't know, but I will tell you this. 11 fouls from Cagliari, 3 yellow cards. 3 fouls from Lazio, 1 yellow card. I mean, I thought in the first 30 minutes, a team was playing football and another one was giving kicks to the other team. I mean, that's simply something that I couldn't. I thought there were a couple of penalties, but they told me there weren't penalties. But I mean, it's hard to believe that Cagliari finished with just 3 yellow cards and 2 was to the same player, right? So I think that was awful referee. Talking about the physicality, more than physicality, I would say the speed of the team, of our midfield, is a concern, because Leiva's not fast. Milinkovic-Savic is a terrific player, but it's definitely not fast. I think the faster midfield we have is Luis Alberto. So I think that's an issue, and I think that's something that other teams already exploit, like AC Milan on last week, right? So that's why I think that Cataldi, maybe it's the best solution we have, because he's fast, he can play as a playmaker, and he can give a little bit of speed to this team.
Well, I mean, it does seem like now Cataldi is pretty much booked in as being the number 2 to Lucas rather than Escalante. The fact that he's come off the bench, made a good impact and scored the equaliser is going to help his case a lot. So it'll be interesting to see now what happens on Thursday. After Cataldi playing that well off the bench, Lucas playing that poorly from the start, and the derby coming up, does Cataldi go straight into the starting lineup for the game against Torino? He spoke after the game and he talked about how he's still having to learn this role, and he thinks he can play in this role, but it requires an awful lot. It's quite complicated. So he clearly doesn't feel like he's there yet, but of course nobody, I think, feels like they're there yet really with any of this. So I think for a player, particularly in that kind of position, that role in front of the defence in Sarri's system, he is going to need to be on the pitch. He is going to need game time if he is going to develop that positional awareness and so on.
Well, Alistair, I was expecting a little bit of turnover this Sunday, and it didn't happen. Now, Thursday, I hope there's going to be some changes, because Sunday, the derby is coming, and everybody knows how important that match is for Lazio. But Sarri is not one that love to change too much the team, especially at the beginning of the season, which makes sense, right? The starting 11 has to learn perfectly the movement, where they have to be, etc. So if you rotate the team, that doesn't happen. But playing every 3 days, I think you need to do a little bit of turnover. Now, I don't know if this will mean that Cataldi would start, because again, if I have to choose, maybe it's better if he starts in the derby, even though the experience of Leiva could be very important in that match. But yeah, expect a little bit of turnover there. Well, everywhere, I think it's time. But yeah, I thought Cataldi played well. I thought Cataldi is the only player that we have that has the character to play in that position. So we have to see what Sarri thinks about that. Martuscello, that was on the bench, said that he saw a lot of improvement, that Lazio played a great football. And to be honest, Lazio had 28 shots and 10 on targets against 10 of Cagliari and 3 on target. So that's a lot of chances, right?
28.
Well, this is what the stats saying. So that's definitely ball possession 73%. Wow. So
wow. I didn't realize it was quite prominent as that. That's a lot. But that's also kind of worrying, isn't it? I mean, 28 shots and 2 goals to show for it isn't particularly impressive conversion rate. I did feel like there was a problem with the final ball for a lot of yesterday, where it was getting in good positions, particularly in the wide areas, and the final delivery wasn't quite there. Obviously, eventually got there with Milinkovic's cross for Chiro's header, but a lot of the rest of the time, I mean, it's kind of what you expect, isn't it? As Mazzari, it's a kind of 5-man defense with 3 in front of them, and really, really suffocating the space in the center of the pitch with the number of bodies in there. So the Lazio were getting pushed out wide, and I just felt like that was actually working, though. That was helping Lazio in many ways, because with Lazio on the overlap and Pedro and Felipe kind of causing problems one-on-one, they were getting openings. They were getting in behind that defense, but it was just kind of once the ball got into the box, like you said before, that they couldn't quite get anywhere. And like I said last night when we spoke after the match, it surprised me how long it took to kind of push Milinkovic further up the pitch and get in the box a bit more, or at least it felt like that to me. That it was only kind of right towards the end of the game that he was spending far more time that much closer to Ciro.
Yeah, and I think Lazio have to work better on the wingers. I think we have a huge potential with Lazzari, Pedro, Felipe Anderson, and so on. Lazio has really the power to put in create big problems there. And as I said yesterday, Felipe Anderson has to finish better, because I thought in the first half he showed his talent, but then you have to capitalize. And unfortunately, that's his weakness, right? I thought even in the second half, both Pedro and Felipe Anderson were really too tired, and maybe Lazio should have made those subs earlier. But in the 4-3-3, you have to use better the wingers. You have Lazzari that push a lot, so you can create a 2-1 on the right side. You have to use it better. We used Oli in that chance, the Ciro Immobile goal, where Milinkovic-Savic went wide. And Lazzari made the movement to create space for Milinkovic, who crossed in the box. We have to see a little bit more about that, trying to do it more. Then the question is, obviously, maybe in those matches, Murici would have been more useful than Ciro. We put a lot of balls in the box, and Murici was warming up. He didn't came in. I thought probably to win it, we needed him, right?
Yeah, because he was about to come on just before the equaliser, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that did confuse me a little bit, that Lazio did equalise and then changed their mind about bringing him on. Something we pointed out when we were previewing the game earlier this week, the fact that all 3 of the goals Cagliari conceded in their last game were from headers. And Murici's probably the best header of the ball that we've got in this team. And it was a bit odd to not see him at all. I just felt like, I mean, there was so much pressure being applied. The atmosphere was great towards the end of the game there, where the crowd were really getting behind the team. And it felt like with another 5 minutes, Lazio probably would have got there. I mean, they did have that momentum behind them. So it was a bit frustrating in that way. But that also, for me, kind of summed up the match in general, where it's kind of waves. Lazio didn't have Cagliari by the throat from the start of the game to the end of the game. They started well. They came to life towards the end of the second half, but I feel like either side of halftime there was a little bit of a lull, and that's to be expected. But I feel like when you have those lulls, when you're not kind of completely in control of the match, the one thing you need to make sure you don't do is switch off and concede sloppy goals, and that's exactly what happened twice. And Keita's one, he's got enough time to control the ball, get the ball onto his stronger foot, and then basically just pick his point. I mean, he should never be getting that much time and it's not like there was no one there. There was about 4 defenders back at that point. So
yeah,
that kind of stuff's pretty disappointing.
We talked a lot about Acerbi in this beginning of the season, but I thought Luis Felipe as well was really bad, especially when Keita scored. He was slow. He wasn't able to stop Cagliari, who I think has a very good team. I think now with a new manager, they can really recover and finish in a good position. But we always said Luis Felipe, his biggest problem is he's often injured. Well, yesterday he wasn't injured, but he made far too many mistakes. And I can understand that maybe, seeing Acerbi playing like that doesn't help. But yesterday I was expecting more, especially on the second goal from Luis Felipe.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it seems like he's been picked out in terms of the kind of reaction from the press anyway. Him, Lucas, and I think Reina as well has come in for a bit of criticism for their performances. Reina, who we've just learned, which we didn't realise, but we've just learned just before starting to record that apparently he was the best goalkeeper in Serie A last season. This is huge news, Vittorio.
Yeah, didn't see that coming, definitely.
For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, he was genuinely given a prize just this morning. I've forgotten the name of the prize already, but for the best goalkeeper in Serie A in the 2021 season.
Scopigno Pulici. Pulici is the former Lazio goalkeeper that won the Scudetto. So for this reason, this year they added the best goalkeeper in Serie A and in Serie B, and Reina looks like he won the Serie A. Don't ask me how, but this is what they voted. So,
well, while we're on the topic of goalkeepers, I think we need to talk about the reaction to Strakosha's error. Because firstly, there was the banner, which I'll let you explain because you're the one who was actually in the stadium in time to see it. And secondly, with Cataldi's celebration of running straight over to him. And I mean, quite an emotional day all in all for Strakosha, but absolutely heartwarming, really, quite uplifting, all this reaction to a terrible moment for him, but fans and teammates all getting behind him.
Yes, it was surprising because there were a lot of rumors, or at least in the last couple of years, there was these rumors that fans didn't like Strakosha, right? They didn't like him as a goalkeeper, etc. Instead, after the mistake, there was this banner in the Curva Nord that quoted a little bit of Dante Alighieri, the Inferno of Dante Alighieri, and the banner, in my terrible translation, said, "Don't look at them, but think about being goalkeeper." So, and it looks like Strakosha started crying, or this is what it looks like, and then he confirmed it on Instagram. So he was surprised. I thought he had the impression that fans didn't like him. So that was definitely a nice moment. And again, I reiterate, I hope Sarri gives him another chance, maybe against Torino, because I don't think Reina was terrible against Cagliari. I don't blame him for the 2 goals, but I still think that the best goalkeeper we have is on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, one thing I didn't like quite so much was when the team was being read out, Murici is getting booed a lot.
And that's not the
And
first time that happened. Even in the other match against Spezia, this happened. And I don't understand why, to be honest with you. He hardly played last year. He missed some chances. Yeah, but, what about first season of Caicedo, right? So I don't understand this thing. I think this is just to attack Iglitare. He's one of the players he signed, so let's boo him to show Tare that we don't love him. But it doesn't help the team. It doesn't help the player. And, my mentality, and as a fan, I thought this should be the mentality of every Lazio fan. If he's playing for Lazio, you have to cheer him before the match, during the match. Then afterwards, you can do whatever you want. But when he's going to go away, then you can do whatever you want. But if he's a Lazio player, you have to cheer him and support him.
Yeah, I just think it's totally unhelpful. I mean, the reason must just be that he's been pretty crap so far for Lazio, and I just don't think he's going to get any better if he doesn't have confidence and have people behind him. So I hope he can get over it. I mean, at the same time, it did make me think a bit about Caicedo's first season. I think he got a bit of that when he was playing very poorly. His first season at Lazio, and then obviously he managed to completely change everyone's mind about him over the course of his time there. So it's really a challenge laid down to Murici to do the same thing and be capable of turning round the fans' opinion. The only way he's going to be able to do that, obviously, is by getting on the pitch and by performing well. And he's not really had much of a chance to get on the pitch so far. So let's hope that he can, because we can't just have Ciro all season as much as we'd love to, because he's not superhuman.
Well, again, I was surprised that Murici didn't start on Thursday against Galatasaray, and I was surprised that he didn't come in yesterday. I don't know. You are too old, but you need to win that match. Probably I would have still put in Murici in. Maybe sacrifice Ciro Immobile and bring in Murici. We're putting the ball in the box. We need someone good with the header. So I would have risked that, honestly, with you. I don't know if you agree with me, but I thought that was the perfect move. The match is pretty much over. It's not that he's going to play 30 minutes, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it comes back to the same dilemma we kind of touched on a bit at the start of the week, where you can understand that Sarri says he wants to keep the same players on the pitch because he feels like they need that time to be able to start playing the football he wants them to play. But at the same time, in a season as busy as this one, with games coming all the time, you do need also your fringe players and your rotational players to be getting the same exposure to game time in order for them to be at their best. So, yeah, it's a tricky position, but I think we are going to get a lot of this. I think up until Christmas, at least. I don't think this is going to be the last disappointing result we get against a team we feel like we should beat. I don't want to sound too downtrodden, but I have said that all along. And yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the comparison was recently, but I saw someone talking about the fact that, when Sarri took over at Juventus, that was a transition from a team that had played with a back four at times under Allegri, and still it took a long time for them to really kind of start understanding how to do it, what kind of movements were needed. He never quite got there, but he only got one season. So I think it's going to take even longer to make that transition from a team that is playing in a completely different way.
Well, Sarri said that they never adapt to the Sarri ball. It has been Sarri to adapt to Juventus pretty much. Juventus defense usually defend very low, and he wasn't able to make them change, so he had to adapt to Juventus. And that's why I know it's hard to say, but yeah, Sarri failed there. Yeah, he won the Scudetto, but we never saw the Sarri ball. So that's why I think they sack him as well. So that was, I think, completely different. One funny stats, Alistair, is that yesterday we had 3 former Lazio Primavera champion on the pitch. Well, not on the pitch because Strakosha was on the bench, and 2 scored, Cataldi and Keita.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's a shame that one of them wasn't actually playing for Lazio, but okay.
Well, if you think about that of the starting 11, well, probably of all the team of that won the Primavera title, what was it, 10 years ago, something like that? There are only three playing in Serie A. Strakosha, Keita, and Cataldi. We have now Tuncara in Serie B, and pretty much all the others have all retired.
Murgia?
Murcia wasn't there.
Has he not? Yeah. I mean, it does also make you wonder and reflect on what the hell happened and how, two of the last three seasons now, Lazio have been in Serie B and the Primavera team, and we just kind of stopped really producing players in the same way from that we did with that period. Because, yeah, I mean, then there was likes of Murgia and Lombardi who kind of emerged after that, never really were good enough or stuck around long enough. But it's not really been very fruitful in recent years, has it? But we don't need to go into that. We've talked about that at length before.
Well, yeah, I forgot to mention Greco. That I think he's in Vicenza now. But yeah, the only three that made it in Serie A are those, which, makes you think about it. They won the Scudetto, and yeah, that's the situation.
Yeah. Well, it was good to see Moro get some time again yesterday.
Yep.
It was interesting. I think that at the end of the game, Sarri saw him as a player to bring on to try and unlock the defense or create that kind of opportunity. He did kind of he did that little kind of dance to the edge of the box, and I just felt like he's got to pull the trigger then, and he looked for a pass instead. But I got very excited in that moment because I thought, what a way to introduce yourself that would be if he managed to kind of curl one in from that position. But yeah, it looks like it's not just pre-season now. We can confirm at this point that Moro is going to be getting game time and featuring throughout the season.
And that was a surprise for me, Alistair. I didn't expect it because, as you were saying, the match was still open. It's not that it's 5-1. Okay, it's finished. No, he brought him in to win. He didn't start very well. I thought he lost a couple of balls at the beginning, but after a couple of minutes, you could see that he has talent and he can do more. So that's positive because obviously he's youngster. He's a great talent. As I said a lot of time, the biggest problem with Raul Moro is that he's a great dribbler, but he's not very good in shooting and scoring. He missed a couple of chances. That's why he didn't shoot but tried to give the ball to someone else. The other thing we have to say is that Luca Romero instead played with the Primavera on Saturday and wasn't called yesterday. He's 16 years old, but I think he's wasted with the Primavera.
Yeah, although, he probably is. But at the same time, if they know he's not going to play, it's better that he plays for Primavera than doesn't play at all, I guess. And yes, 16. It's hard to fathom. I mean, what were you doing when you were 16? I don't think I was playing in Serie A, as far as I remember. But it was a long time.
Well, in my dreams I was, but well, Alistair, no time to relax really, because Thursday there's another very important match. Torino is a good team. Torino is doing well. They have a manager that I really love. And, when Inzaghi left, I thought that Juric could be one of the options because a little bit like Sarri, he plays great football. He's very good in making players perform at the best. Just see what happened with Verona and all the players they sold. So I think it's going to be a very complicated match. Plus, there's the derby on Sunday. So I don't know. If I was the manager, if I was Sarri, I would do massive turnover. But I don't think it's going to happen, right?
No, I'm a bit concerned about Torino. Like you said, I mean, it's amazing. It's not that surprising, but the difference actually getting a serious coach in, and I thought that was a brilliant appointment. I was really disappointed at the time because he was my pick to take the Lazio job if we'd been able to. But yeah, they've started the season well. They're not a joke team anymore, and these games are always very lively, as we know. generally packed with incident. We don't have Caicedo anymore, though, so we can't bring out our 97th minute goal machine, which is disappointing. But I think there's always a risk in these weeks. Both these games are worth 3 points, Torino and Roma. Obviously, Roma means a lot more than 3 points and what it can actually do for this team. But you don't want to fall into the trap of focusing so much on that you rotate the team too much, or you're not going at it with as much energy as you otherwise would, because bad results in these two games could put Lazio in already quite a tricky position.
Yeah, you're right. But how, the derby, how fans feel the derby in Rome. So, but, I think Sarri has the experience enough to understand that and to put up the best formation for both matches. Anyway, guys, thank you again for listening. Remember that you can follow us on Spotify, Spreaker, YouTube, wherever you listen to our podcast, and you can help us at patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Thank you, Alistair. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.